This video is all about higher order functions, which is one of those concepts that beginners struggle a lot. And I think one of the things is because it's very rarely really broken down to its core, because when you go through what higher order functions actually are and when you use them, they're not that complicated. So I'll try to do that in the video. So if we go into this code now, I have my JavaScript open here. And generally, if you watch the video on functions already, you know how to define a function, right? So my first function could be, for example, an addition function. So I would like to have number A, I'd like to have number B, and those are parameters that are being passed into this function. Now, if I go and I want to have an addition, well, I'm just going to take number A plus number B. That should be hopefully easy enough. If we look at the result, right, we can say result equals addition of 5 and 3. And if we do it like that and then just console log the result, right, that gives me 8. Okay, which is great, right? This is one way. Now, well, this is just functions in general, which you're going to encounter everywhere. Now, let's say I want to have the subtract function work in a similar way. Number A, number B, and it's going to return, in this case, number A minus number B. And you're already seeing that the structure is very much the same. If you look at the function signature, so this first line here, you see what it's named, you see what parameters it takes, and you see that exactly those parameters match exactly the parameters of the function add. Which means that if I just change this, literally just change the function name, I'm now going to subtract 3 from 5. So my result should go from 8 to 2. There we go. Okay? Easy enough, hopefully, at least if you watched the video on functions. Now, what are higher order functions? Higher order functions take other functions as arguments. So these here are the normal kind of functions, but I can now create a function that will take another function as an argument. Usually also those functions that you pass down are going to be called callback function. The way you can think about it is the function you pass them to will do some kind of logical stuff, and then when it's done with that, it will call back using the function that has been passed into it. So for example, I can say here, I'm going to create a new function, which I'm going to call simple calculator. And that function, let's say for now, it's just going to take number A and number B. That's all it takes for now. And I'm going to do a little bit of stuff here with it. I'm just going to say console log the first number is number A. Okay, now I can say the second number is number B. This stuff here, right, I'm going to do for anything that is going to be passed into it. So right now, if I run this function, I can say simple calculator, 5 and 3 once again. And if I comment these out, you're going to see that my function already does what I'm telling it to do. The first number is 5, the second number is 3. That's fine. I want to run that piece of the code, these 2 lines, I always want to run them no matter what is being passed into it. But then when I'm done with all that, when I'm done with that logging, I now want to do the simple calculation. Now, as a third argument, what my function will take is another function. I can call that operation. This function will be whatever I want to do with number A and number B. So I can go in here and I can now say, well, I'm just going to call whatever function has been passed in here, and I'll just give it number A and number B. And this is very confusing, I think, for a lot of people starting out, because a function doesn't seem like something you can just pass to other functions, but it works just like that. If you remember from the functions video, if I, for example, do this, if I just put add right here like this, nothing's actually going to happen. Sorry, now we're getting an error for missing that. If I just put add here, nothing is actually going to happen, right? There's no output, because what I'm basically doing here is I'm just saying this function's name, right? I'm not actually saying run the code within that function. I'm basically not doing anything here. I have to use the parentheses to invoke that function. If I do that, and I say, for example, here again, result is add 5 and 3, and I console log the result, you're going to see I'm getting 8, right? That's what we did before. If I don't call the function, and I'm just saying, well, it should be add, you're going to see that result is just going to turn into a function itself. So I could theoretically as well say result 5 and 3, which is not really part of this lecture, but right now I'm just assigning this function body in here to the result variable. More importantly though, for the higher order function is now that I can also, instead of assigning add to a variable, I can pass it to another function and then invoke it from there. What does that mean? Well, in this case here, in the simple calculator, I'm now saying my third parameter that comes into this function should be a function. Now, if that's the case, from now on, whatever function is being passed into my simple calculator will be named within this code block as operation. And so, similarly to before where we said we had add, this is just the function name, this is the function call, I can then say, okay, well, I have a function that is from now on called operation, and I will give it number A and number B. So the requirement here for us to use it like that is that the function coming into the simple calculator has to accept 2 parameters. And now what I can do here is just say the result of that operation I'll save as such, and then return the result. Now what that will do is my simple calculator will tell us what is number A, what is number B, and then whatever operation we pass into it, we're going to execute it, we're going to invoke it right here, create the result from it, and then return it. So if I now go and say I have a simple calculator, and in this case here, I'm going to pass in the add function. And now, very important, don't do this, because that will invoke that function in that place. But instead, just literally pass its name to the simple calculator. If I do that, and I wrap console log around the whole thing, what we should be seeing is the first number is 5, second number is 3, and then we should get 8 out of this. And that's exactly what we get here, right? I could have also made this an extra step. I could have said, for example, const result equals this without wrapping the console log around it. That makes it a little bit easier to follow maybe when you're starting out with this. But the general idea is now I have the flexibility not to just put the add function into the simple calculator. I can give it any other function that takes 2 parameters. So similarly, I could say, well, I'm going to have the simple calculator with a subtract function. And if I do that, and I run everything again, what do we expect? And this is, by the way, one really important thing whenever you're starting out with JavaScript and you're writing code, really try to first understand what are you expecting to see, and then if you don't see what you're expecting, update it, right? Like figure out why it doesn't run the way that you wrote it, or that you thought you wrote it. Anyway, so I have the subtract function in here now. What do we expect? We still expect to see the first number is 5, the second number is 3, but now we subtract 3 from 5, so the result should be 2. And here we go, right? And also just to make sure that I'm not faking this, right? If I say 12 and 2, it works the same way. And so what is my higher order function in this case here? It's a simple calculator. It's a simple calculator function because that one now takes another function, executes it, and then sends the result back. And you can see hopefully how that gives us more flexibility. I mean, these examples that I can do here in like these short 10-minute videos are quite simple, but the deeper you go with coding, the more you're going to appreciate the ability to use these kind of functions and just pass them to sort of wrapper functions. Functions that do something else for you and then execute whatever function you give it to them. A very, very good example of this stuff, array methods, they are literally everywhere. Filter, reduce, map, all of those. I put out another I'll put out another video on these in a few days. If you want to watch them, subscribe, comment with different concepts you want me to go through, and I'll hopefully see you in the next one.